Hello everybody. In this video we are going to discuss the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. So the poet in this poem is discussing the need of quiet introspection and love and mutual understanding among people. And also he tells us that if we don't spare time for ourselves, what can happen in our lives. So he ponders over different aspects of human life and tells us that what is happening in the today's world, what is happening to the today's man. That today's man is after material possessions, he is running and rushing after rewards and awards, and he doesn't realize that how his activities are harming himself and also the nature, the surrounding. He discusses the problem of global warming, he discusses the problem of wars which is lingering all over the world, and he says that we are caught in the cell of self, we are selfish and we don't think of others, we are afraid of death, and he also wants us to learn something from this earth, and for all this he wants us to be prepared. He wants us to prepare and think, meditate. So let's see how all this have been conveyed in this poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. So as I said, the main subject of this poem, the main idea of this poem is quiet introspection, the need of quiet introspection and love and mutual understanding among people. So now let's see how the poet begins. Now we will count to 12 and we'll all keep still. So the poet wants us to count to 12. Now why this counting up to 12? The poet doesn't know counting after that? No, of course, it's not that. This 12 number has a certain significance. There are 12 numbers on the dial of a watch. We divide the time of a day into 12s. There are 12 months in a year, so that's why this particular number has been taken. Moreover, by this counting up to 12, the poet wants us to prepare ourselves. So just as we prepare ourselves for several things, we prepare ourselves for exams, we prepare ourselves before setting out on a journey, the players prepare themselves, warm themselves up before playing a match. So same way here, for that act of meditation, for that act of introspection, he wants us to prepare. Because only after that we'll be able to come in a situation of talking to ourselves. So this preparation is quite necessary for that. So that's why this counting up to 12. And after that we'll all keep still. It means we'll all reach in that position to meditate. We'll reach in that situation of talking to ourselves, of meditating. And for once on the face of this earth, let's not speak in any language. The poet wants us to keep quiet completely. He doesn't want us to indulge in any talking or any conversation or any dialoguing, because this talking, uselessly talking to somebody, banalities, this talking and this useless conversation, indulging in useless dialoguing, that's the root of all the melodies. See, I'm not talking of that melody, hai chocolatey. This melody, M-A-L-A-D-Y, melody here is problem. So this is actually the root of all the problems. So he wants us to be quiet. Let silence be the language of communion, communion with ourselves, communion with that supreme soul, so that we may be able to know ourselves, to talk to ourselves, to understand ourselves better. and for that silence is quite necessary. So that's why he wants us to be silent and introspect. Now further he says, let's stop for 1 second. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. So he wants us to stop. Why? He wants us to stop because we are running and rushing. We are engaged in the rat race of material possessions. We want awards, rewards, power, position, prestige, money, this and that and what not. We want everything. The human beings are getting greedy. We want more and more. The greed never satiates. There is no satiation. There is no satisfaction to this. It never ends. So that's why he wants us to stop and not move our arms so much. So here is fun involved in this line. A question has been asked several times in the exams about this. He says that we are running and rushing. We are physically so much engaged and we are quarreling, we are fighting. So he doesn't want us to fight anymore. He doesn't want us to rush and run madly after material possessions. No. Let's stop. Let's avoid all that for a while. Let's stop. Keep all such things away and spare time for ourselves. Let's know ourselves. Let's think of ourselves. Let's understand ourselves. Because if we go on running and rushing, we won't be able to spare time for ourselves. We won't be able to understand ourselves, that what we are doing and why are we doing that. So it's better to know and then proceed. And so further he says, it would be an exotic moment. He says, it would be an exotic moment without rush and without engines. So of course that would be an exotic moment. Exotic means unusually strange, unusually attractive. So of course when all would be silent and thinking and meditating and introspecting, that would be an unusually strange moment, because generally that doesn't happen, that all would be silent and meditating. Without rush and without engines. So engines here are symbolic of continuous movement and noise. So when all would be silent and introspecting, there would be no noise, there would be no halabaloo, there would be no commotion or uproar or tumult. It would be all silent and all would be engaged in the same task of meditating. So that would really be something unique. And we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. So this would create a feeling of unity, a feeling of solidarity, that we are all together, we are all in the same mold, in the same situation, and that's why all be together in a sudden strangeness. So there would be a strange feeling, a feeling of strangeness, that how all unitedly in the same more in the same way they are thinking and meditating and introspecting. So this feeling of unity and solidarity would prevail there. And further he says, fishermen in the cold sea, fishermen in the cold sea would not harm the whales. Would not harm the whales, and the men gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. So these are images drawn by the poet to tell us, to show that how our activities are harming the nature, our surrounding, and even ourselves. So the fisherman tells us that how we are engaged in harming our nature. He says that fishermen in the cold sea. Now this cold sea here means the indifferent world, that we are living in an indifferent world where people have no sympathy and empathy for others. There is no fellow feeling. The well of sympathy and empathy has dried out. So that's what cold sea means. So how does he suggest it by the image of fishermen? He says that fishermen, they go on catching more and more fish. They don't realize that how it is harming the nature. Out of their greed, they think of, they want more. They want to collect and catch more fish, thinking that that would result in giving them more money, earning more money. But in that process, how they harm the nature, they don't realize that. They don't feel, they don't think that whether the fish rot or they are rotten or they go waste or spoil, it doesn't matter to them. They just want to collect more and more, even if they don't need that much. So it results in the harm of our nature. So same way we human beings are harming our nature through several ways. Our activities, like we know several such examples of our factories and vehicles, and how all these things are polluting our nature and surrounding, but we don't care. And same way, the man gathering salt. So the man gathering salt is the example of how we are hurting and harming ourselves. So the man gathering salt, out of greed, he goes on collecting more and more salt, thinking that he would get more money if he collects more. But in that process of collecting, his hands are bruised. His hands are bruised and there are blisters on them. But at that time, he doesn't realize that. So what is the use of earning like that, or what is the use of getting involved or getting busy like that, when you are unable to take care of yourself, when you are unable to think of yourself, you earn one way and you spend the other way. So whatever comes, it goes the other way around. So it's of no use. We at least must think of ourselves, and that's what is happening in today's world, that man has busied himself so much that he has no time for himself. He's engaged morning till night, and whatever he earns through that, it goes in some other way. He gets diseases, several problems, cholesterol, BP, sugar, thyroid, what not. He, because of such lifestyle, man gets different problems. So what is the use of getting busy in that manner when you don't have time for yourself? So it's quite important to think that, it's quite important to understand that. So in this video we are discussing only up to this stanza. The second part of this poem will be in the next video. So thank you for watching this. For the second part, for the other half, watch the next video. Thanks again.